No, but I'll have to take a moment to morph back into my bench here. The temperature is
Should I?
getting me here. All right, then. Close enough for non-government work.
What? Non.
Yes. That was intended to be
I know. Surprise, surprise. Our next speaker, as you know, is Mike Benge. Mike was captured in 1968 and released in 1973 during Operation Homecoming. Mike spent 11 years in Vietnam as a Foreign Service officer and is a student of Southeast Asia politics. He is very active in advocating for human rights, religious freedom, and democracy for the peoples of the region. It's a great honor and privilege to have Mike on the Alliance's Board of Directors and to have him again at our meeting today. Here's Mike.
Well, I'm glad to go longer, so, here we go. Janella so eloquently explains what I partially had for my presentation today, so I won't reiterate a bit on the founding of the alliance. But I'd like to reminisce and mention the names of some alliance activists who over the years have passed into the great beyond. First of all, of course, I have to mention Dolores. Dolores Alphonse, in her many quests for accurate information on POWMIA, through the ire of Senator John McCain during a 1973 Senate Select Committee, 93, that's supposed to be 1993. Typo I didn't catch last night at 12 o'clock. Senate Select Committee hearing, then suggesting that data gathered from the SPIKE program, that is the electronic information recording devices designed as jungle plants and dropped along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, should be gleaned for possible information on POWMIA. McCain popped his cork and rudely accused her of revealing the classified information, even though the continued classification of the data was a moot point for the Vietnam War, John. It had been over for nigh on 20 years. Then O'Shea, the jack of all trades, who was the primary keeping the alliance functioning over the years, her crowning glory was authoring and publishing the excellent tome Abandoned in Place, detailing the failure of accounting for POWMIAs. Ted Sampley, how many of you remember him? Was the bane of Senator John McCain and maintained the last fire base at the foot of the steps at the Lincoln Memorial, despite McCain's many protests. Ted's numerous antics drew the attention to the POWMIA cause, as well as that of the police residing in Ted's many arrests, but never convicted, I think. Most memorable was one of Ted's bumper stickers, which he said, "Flush the two Johns from the Senate." Jane Duke Gaylord in 2000. Boy, I've got my dates wrong there. During the Senate hearing, anyway, confronted by a group of activists in the hallway next to his office, assaulted Jeanette Jenkins, the cousin of MIA Charles Duke. She was the caregiver for wheelchair-bound Jane Gaylord, who was in a wheelchair. McCain then threatened Jane by raising his arm as if to strike her before coming to his senses, if that's not an oxymoron. He then pushed her wheelchair out of the way and abruptly continued on his way down the hall. Then we have Jeff Donahue, who's the brother Air Force Major Morgan J. Donahue, who was shot down over Laos and thought to have been held as a POW in a POW camp there. Dorothy Shelton, whose husband, Air Force Colonel Charles E. Shelton, was captured after his RF 101C fighter reconnaissance plane was shot down on April 29, 1965, while on a mission over northern Laos. And then we have Lorna Loftus, who lost her first husband, who went missing in action in World War II, and then married the person who was their best man, who later married the person who was her best man, and he went missing. He became MIA in Korea. These are just the names of a few of those of us who have passed on to the great beyond. When DOD changed its name to DPAA, it was thought it could wash away their sins of the past. However, many of our members expressed displeasure, commenting the current leadership of the DPAA has adopted the dictatorial attitude, excluding our groups from a process in which we were intricately involved. Their new attitude is one way, our way or the highway, and the leadership has made it clear that they will not tolerate any questioning or criticism of its efforts. They will slowly weed out family groups in favor of the large veteran service organizations and other similar entities, seeking those who will praise them, their effort, rather than criticize it. Soon after DPAA's name change, two family groups, one being the Alliance, were removed from the Pentagon's teleconferences updates. Back in November 1999, I testified to House International Relations Committee regarding the Cuban program, whereby Cuban officials tortured some 20 POWs, American POWs in Hanoi, murdering one. Among the many comments, among many of my comments, excuse me, was the Department of Defense POW missing personnel, DPMO, has mastered the art of obfuscation. I grew up in a farm in the West and used to try to catch greased pigs at the county fair. I can assure you, trying to pin down the DPMO to truthful facts is sometimes much more difficult than trying to catch a greased pig. This brings to mind Alphonse Carr's 1839 amorphism, plus c'est change, plus c'est la même chose. The more things change, the more they remain the same. There's a saying, never try to teach a pig to whistle, for you only annoy the pig and waste your time. I feel we haven't wasted our time. As for the rest, I'll leave that to you to judge. Then enter the last act of defiance. Before her death, posted a picture of a pig with lipstick on the Alliance website, signifying that DPA's name change was only old wine in a new bottle. Although the deck has been stacked against us, we are not seeking revenge. We will leave that to the courts, nor do we seek to get anyone fired. We leave that others to judge. We, like every American, should only seek honest answers from our government and our representatives, and want a competent investigation and just determination of the fate of our POWMIAs. Only in this way can the families of POWMIAs find closure to their long suffering grief. As you may know, Rolling Thunder has announced that this weekend will be their last ride to Washington, D.C. for POWMIAs. Today is also the 30th anniversary of the establishment of the Alliance. As you can see today, at today's meeting, isn't our first rodeo. When I was a POW, isn't our first rodeo, but I asked, will it be our last? One might ask, has the deep state finally defeated us? When I was a POW, half dead and feeling just about to give up, what kept me going was repeating to myself over and over the Latin phrase, illegitimi non carborundum. That means don't let the bastards grind you down. And that's what my, I finished editing this at 12 last night. So you got what there. Any comments? Anyone who would like a copy of this, I can send it to you electronically. I thank you very much for the opportunity. Sorry.
Mike, thank you for reading the names of all past colleagues that sacrificed so much on behalf of the POW issue. And as you know, over the years, our numbers have severely declined, that as you can see in the room, the interest is diminished because the government propaganda led us to believe that things are being accomplished. And, you know, many times at the DPMO, DPIA would be a little bit aggressive and they would try to put us down. And they've succeeded because they make the people of America feel like they're getting things accomplished by virtue of recovering remains. And many times I brought up to DPMO that, well, if you had a live guy come forward, you'd have to tell him to kill himself in order to come home so he'd be remains. And this is just where we're at. The government doesn't care, and they'd rather just have diplomatic relations with the communists for big business.
When the reason I first joined the Alliance was after a meeting with DPMO with the National League of Families. At that time, the Secretary Ford, I believe it was, came to address the meeting and announced, like little Jack Horner who sat in a corner with his thumb stuck in the pie, announced his great accomplishment that DPMO had done. And that is they were dropping leaflets in Laos offering rewards for the remains of POWs, not for POWs. They were offering rewards for POWs. And I stood up and I was so angry. And I said, you son of a bitches, you just signed the death warrant for POWs in Laos. Shame on you. And left and went on from there. I'm sorry I have a problem with my eyes. I have macular degeneration, and so I have a little problem reading print. I can do okay on the computer, but it has a different...
Wait a minute.
Don't leave us, Mike.
Wait.
You would make my inferiority complex even worse if you left now, if that's possible.
Well, I thought you were hiding behind the poster, but evidently you snuck around it.
People have asked me to hide, but I keep emerging from under whatever it was I was hiding under. I want to comment or ask you about paved spikes.
Yeah.
Up until now, the only two people I've heard mention that program, if that's the proper term, would be Dolores Alfon and the award-winning, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Sidney Schoenberg. Regrettably, they're not here, can't talk about it anymore. So I'm curious to know, if you might know, is there anybody else still living that knows anything about that highly technical program called Paved Spike?
The only person that I know of that was involved in that type of operation was Mooney.
Jerry Mooney.
Jerry Mooney. And the other people I know who may have been involved in that program are either dead or won't end up talking. But they actually, the Baron 52 who went down was part of that operation. And it was, the planes would end up flying over the Ho Chi Minh Trail where the spikes were dropped and be able to electronically pull that information up into the airplane and then disseminate it. So what happened to the information, I have no idea.
I'm gonna sneak in for a second, because we have there's a slight change from when we made the original agenda. And this afternoon, we're actually going to have a speaker who is currently in the room, who I haven't announced because he's our closer. And he has some knowledge about what you're asking.
Good.
Good.
I'll wait to hear from him. Thank you.
Anyone else? I shall not bid you adieu, but I'll get off the podium, turn it over to the next person.
Okay, Mike Wakeman, we're gonna give you our challenge coin and dog tags, please. I'm gonna give you enough, we'll give it to your daughter.
Oh, well. Well, okay, leaning to the right instead of forward and hanging around. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want to leave your vest here? It'd be safe. No, it's good.
You sprayed a woman, yeah? Good idea.